Adanna's decision to marry Emeka was not just a scandal, it was an earthquake. In the village of Umuachara, where reputation was currency, Adanna was royalty. She was the daughter of Elder Nze, a girl whose beauty was sung about by drunk palm wine tappers and whose laugh was said to cure fevers. Emeka, conversely, was the filth walker, the village outcast. He lived in a collapsing mud hut at the edge of the cursed forest, speaking only to his own shadow. He was gaunt, scarred, and rumored to commune with dark spirits. Why he was an outcast, no one quite remembered. The accusation was so old, it had simply become fact. When Adanna, veiled and radiant, refused the son of the wealthiest chief and pointed her aro, traditional fan, at Emeka, who was hiding in the bushes, the village square fell silent. Her father, Nze, felt the blood drain from his face. "This joke is cruel, daughter," he hissed. Adanna did not blink. "He is the only man I will marry." The elders were apoplectic, her mother fainted, and her suitors cursed her name. But the deed was done. The community shunned the wedding. There was no music, no feasting, only the sound of Adanna's quiet vows echoing in the empty, judgmental air as she tied her fate to the man nobody dared to touch. The silence that followed the wedding was heavier than the humid harmattan air. Adanna's family conducted a mock funeral, wailing and tearing their clothes, signifying that their daughter was dead to them. Chief Obinna, the man she had publicly humiliated, was surprisingly gracious. He was a large, handsome man, known for his wisdom and his booming laugh. He visited Elder Nze, offering condolences as if Adanna had truly passed. "The girl has been charmed," Obinna declared, his voice full of false pity. "That forest demon, Emeka, has poisoned her mind with juju. It is a tragedy, Nze, a terrible tragedy." He placed a heavy bag of cowries on the table. "For your troubles." Elder Nze, his face a mask of grief and fury, could not meet Obinna's eyes. He knew, as did most of the village, that Obinna had been promised Adanna. The union would have solidified Obinna's growing influence. Now, Adanna was not just ruined, she was an enemy. The village isolated them completely. Children who strayed too close to Emeka's hut were beaten. The market women refused to sell to Adanna, spitting on the ground where she walked. She and her new husband were ghosts, living on forest yams and rainwater, trapped in a silence imposed by the entire village. Inside the hut, life was different. The first surprise for Adanna was that the hut, though dilapidated on the outside, was meticulously clean within. There were organized stacks of firewood, neatly woven sleeping mats, and carvings of exquisite detail lining the walls. Birds, lizards, and faces she did not recognize. The second surprise was Emeka. The man who shuffled and mumbled in the village was a different person in private. He was quiet, yes, but his silence was not madness. It was a heavy, watchful patience. He spoke little, but when he did, his voice was clear and deep. "You should not have done this," he told her on their third day as husband and wife, his back to her as he repaired a fishing net. "They will never forgive you." Adanna, grinding dried yams, didn't pause. "It is not their forgiveness I am seeking." He turned, his scarred face unreadable in the gloom. "What then? My father was a pariah. I am a pariah. Any child we have will be a pariah. This is the life you have chosen." Adanna finally looked up, her eyes holding his. "I know who your father was," she said softly, "and I know why they hate you. Do you think I married you for love, Emeka? I married you for revenge." Emeka dropped the net. The name he had not in 15 years struck him like a physical blow. What did you say?" Adanna rose, dusting the yam flour from her hands. "My older sister, Neka," Adanna began, her voice steady, "was the most beautiful girl in the village. 10 years ago she was promised to Chief Obinna. She was his first wife-to-be." Emeka's eyes widened. He remembered Neka, everyone did. "One night," Adanna continued, "she went to the stream to fetch water. She never came back. We found her wrapper by the rocks, torn. The elders said a crocodile took her." Emeka shook his head. No crocodile." "No," Adanna agreed, her voice hardening. "My sister was a strong swimmer, but she was also a gossip. She had told me, the day before, that she saw something. She saw Chief Obina meeting with your father in the forest. She said your father was giving Obina a small, carved box. Emeka's breath hitched. The O4, the royal staff of the Igwe. Obina's men, Adanna said, found my sister. They silenced her. And then, Obina accused your father of stealing the O4 and murdering my sister to cover his tracks. He had your family banished and took your father's land, the land that bordered his own. Emeka sank onto a stool, the blood draining from his face. My father, he was the Igwe's personal guard. He would never steal the O4. I know, Adanna said. He was trying to return it. Obina stole it. He wanted the power. Your father, loyal to the Igwe, confronted him. He got the O4 back and was going to expose Obina. But Obina struck first, Emeka whispered, the pieces of his shattered life reassembling into a horrible mosaic. He killed your sister. He framed my father. He took our land. And the village believed him. The village, Adanna said, believes what it is told, especially when the teller is rich. Chief Obina has become the most powerful man in Umuachara. My own father, Elder Unze, profits from Obina's generosity. He sits on the council and supports Obina's every word, all while enjoying the land that was once yours. Emeka looked at his hands, calloused and dirty. It was all a lie. My life, my shame, it was all a lie. Yes, Adanna said, moving to stand before him. And tonight, on the night of the new Yam Festival, the lie ends. This is our wedding night, Emeka, and we have guests to prepare for. They will all be at the Igwe's palace for the feast, and they are expecting a show. The new Yam Festival was the heart of Umuachara. The Igwe's palace was ablaze with lanterns, the air thick with the smell of roasted yam and spicy goat stew. The Ojine music was deafening. Chief Obina, seated at the Igwe's right hand, was the picture of prosperity, his robes heavier, his beads more numerous than anyone else's. He was telling a jovial story when the drumming faltered. A guard whispered in the Igwe's ear. The Igwe, an old, tired man, nodded. The music stopped. We have uninvited guests, the Igwe announced, his voice thin. All heads turned. Walking into the center of the firelight were Adanna and Emeka. The gasp was universal. Adanna was in a simple wrapper, but she wore it like a queen. Emeka was beside her, no longer shuffling but walking tall, his eyes sweeping the crowd. They were clean, proud, and utterly terrifying in their audacity. Abomination, shouted Elder Nze, jumping to his feet. How dare you show your faces? You are dead to us. Seize them, Obina roared, his face purpling with rage. They defile the feast. But Adanna's voice, sharp as a blade, cut through the noise. We have come to pay homage, Igwe, as is the right of a new bride, and my husband, he has a wedding gift for you. The crowd, sensing a drama greater than any festival, pressed in. A gift, the Igwe asked, intrigued despite himself. What gift can an outcast bring me but shame? He brings you the truth, Adanna said. She turned to the crowd, her eyes finding her father. Father, do you remember my sister Neka? Elder Enzi froze. Do not speak her name, you thing. She was murdered, was she not? Adanna's voice carried to every corner. Murdered by the same man who framed Emeka's father. A man who sits here, tonight, eating the Igwe's yam. Lies, shouted Obina, his composure cracking. He looked at Elder Enzi. Control your daughter, this is madness. Is it madness, Chief Obina? Emeka spoke for the first time. His clear, strong voice shocked the crowd into silence. Is it madness to speak of the O4 you stole? The Igwe shot to his feet. The O4. What do you know of the royal O4? It was lost with your traitor father. My father was no traitor, Emeka said, his voice ringing with authority. He died trying to protect that staff. He died at the hands of this man. He pointed directly at Chief Obina. The palace was so quiet, one could hear the hiss of the lanterns. The accusation was too enormous, too impossible. Obina was the pillar of the community. Emeka was nothing. Obina laughed, A hollow, desperate sound. The ravings of a madman. Igwe, will you listen to this filth? He defiles the memory of his own father, a known thief. He defiles your festival. Then prove me mad, Emeka challenged, stepping forward. You said my father stole the ophor. You said he fled with it. But your men found him, did they not? They found him, and they killed him. He resisted, Obinna spat. He was a criminal. He was a hero, Adanna interjected, and he was smart. He knew Obinna would kill him for the ophor, so he did the only thing he could. He hid it. The Igwe leaned forward, his eyes wide. Hid it? Where? Where no one would ever look, Emeka said. Where a thief like Obinna, who believes himself too important, would never dirty his hands. He hid it with the only person he trusted, his son. Obinna's smile vanished. What? He gave it to me, Emeka said. I was a small boy. He told me it was a sacred trust. He told me to run, to hide, and to never speak of it, or the man who hunted him would find me too. He made me become the outcast, to become invisible. He made me promise to wait for a sign, or for a partner brave enough to face the leopard. Stepped beside her husband. I am that partner. Obinna was sweating, his eyes darting between Emeka and the Igwe. A story, a fantasy. If you have the ophor, madman, show it. Show us this gift. Emeka held his gaze. I do not have it. I did exactly as my father instructed. I am merely the key. He turned to the Igwe. My father was a carver, as am I. He knew this palace better than any man. He knew you, Igwe, would never change the throne of your ancestors. He walked past the stunned guards, toward the massive, ancient wooden throne where the Igwe sat. He carved a space, Emeka said, his hands tracing the intricate patterns on the throne's base. A space only his hands, or mine, would recognize. He pressed a spot near the floor. A hidden seam, invisible to the eye, clicked. A small wooden panel, no bigger than a hand, popped open. The crowd gasped as one. Emeka reached into the dark hollow. When his hand emerged, he was holding a small, black, intricately carved staff, wrapped in rotted cloth. It was the ophor, the sacred symbol of the Igwe's authority, lost for 15 years. The Igwe collapsed back onto his throne, his hand over his heart. It cannot be, Obinna whispered, his face the color of ash. Guards, seize him. It is a trick, a duplicate. But the Igwe's oldest advisor, a man blind in both eyes, hobbled forward. Let me feel it, he commanded. Emeka placed the staff in the old man's hands. The advisor ran his fingers over the carvings, his lips moving. It is the ophor of our fathers, he declared, his voice trembling. He fell to his knees. It has returned. The palace exploded. Thief! The crowd roared, but this time they were pointing at Obinna. Murderer! And what of Nneka? Adanna's voice cut through the din. All eyes turned to her father, who was shaking violently. Father, Adanna's voice was cold. You sat on the council. You watched Obinna condemn an innocent family. You took their land as payment for your silence about my sister's accident. Tell them. Elder Nzi looked at the ophor. He looked at the guards now surrounding Obinna. He looked at his daughter, who had orchestrated this entire night. He fell to his face. It is true, he choked. All of it. Obinna, he told me Nneka ran into his guards, that it was an accident. He said he would protect me, our family. By sacrificing another, Emeka finished for him. The revelation was absolute. The man they had revered was a murderer and a usurper. The man they had spat on was a guardian, a silent prince who had lived among them, protecting their most sacred artifact. Obinna, seeing the guards close in, made a desperate lunge for Adanna. You witch! But Emeka, no longer a shuffling outcast but a man of purpose, moved faster. He intercepted Obinna, a lifetime of suppressed strength flowing through him. He did not strike Obinna, but simply restrained him, holding him in an iron grip as the guards bound his hands. Take him, the Igwe ordered, his voice shaking but firm. And And take Elder Nze as well. Justice must be served. As her father was led away, his face buried in his hands, Adanna did not watch. She was looking at Emeka, who was now kneeling before the Igwe, presenting the ophor. The Igwe took the staff and then, in an act that stunned the village for the second time that night, he pulled Emeka to his feet. "Your father was my friend," the Igwe said, his eyes wet. "His name will be cleared. Your land will be returned. Your honor is restored." The Igwe turned to the silent, astonished crowd. This is a night of truth. This was the revelation. It was not a secret of wealth, but of honor. It was not a private confession, but a public restoration. The wedding night feast they had all been enjoying was not Obina's celebration, but his downfall. The entire village stood speechless, their world tilted on its axis. The woman they had declared dead had brought their kingdom back to life. The man they called filth was the purest of them all. Adanna, the pariah's bride, walked to her husband. Emeka, no longer an outcast but a hero, no, a prince in all but name, took her hand. The crowd parted for them, their faces a mixture of awe, shame, and terror. Adanna had married the village outcast, knowing exactly who he was. She had planned it, waiting for the perfect moment. She had used the festival, her shameful marriage, and her husband's secret to expose the rot at the village's core. Her goal was never just revenge for her sister. It was justice for Emeka. As they walked out of the palace into the cool night air, the village was left behind, utterly and finally speechless. They had achieved their goal.